Welcome back to As Told by You. We are excited to have Stephen Oliver join us today. Stephen is a brother of Jack Oliver for Jack Oliver Pool Spas and Patios, and he is also a council member for the Forest Acres community. So we are excited to have you here, learn about what you do and your story. So thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the invite.
Nice intro, by the way.
We're working on. We got to work on the intro.
I mean, that's This is one.
So
of the
I'm host today because I booked Stephen. So my name is Brian Arnold. I'm your host of the As Told by You podcast today, and with me today is Bill Grant.
Yes, sir.
The co-host.
Yes. I'm making Ed McMahon
Nice
references,
Ed McMahon.
and nobody knows.
No, I got
nobody
it.
knows
Very
Ed
good.
McMahon
Yes.
references. That's fine.
So big question for you, right? Is what's it like working with your brother?
I always tell people his name's on the building, so he is the ultimate decision maker. But I know my role. I'm a decision maker, but it's ultimately up to him. So,
How did you get? Was there a point where you guys just jumped in to do it together, or was he running it and he's like, "Man, I need your help. Come and work for me."
So he worked his way in a pool store when he was in Florida State. He worked his way it's a franchise, but it's called Pinch a Penny. And basically the model was pool supplies, outdoor furniture, hot tubs. And our dad got sick, so he moved back home from Tallahassee and basically just started working out of his house, cleaning pools and doing service work on pools, motors, pumps, filters, things like that. I was in a commission-based work position. My wife was commission-based. She was doing real estate. I was doing finance for Mack truck dealership here in town. And 2008 hit, and you can imagine things got a little tight, and
Especially in real estate.
Especially in real estate, correct. And she was still kind of a newbie in real estate, so there was nothing really to fall back on. So started looking for other job opportunities, and we were probably going to have to move out of state, find something else out of state. And Jack said, I really see a need for a pool store in downtown Columbia. There was nothing really to help people that were trying to take care of their pools.
It's the only one I know of.
Right. They were going to Two Notch Road. They were going to Harbison. He said, so let's look at doing this. And we just kind of talked, and it was sink or swim. I jumped right in with him, and
Love the pool
we
reference.
tell
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good pun.
Yep.
Yeah.
We tell everybody that comes to work for us, we have one employee that's never cleaned pools, and she is our inside sales lady. But everybody else has cleaned pools for us. There's no better way to learn about the pool industry than taking care of pools. So that's where I started out. He gave me the pool cleaning route, and I took that over and then started learning how to do service. And he was running the store. We opened up on Millwood, very small place on Millwood, right there where Crave is now, Mill Creek. Pet food supply.
And now you guys are around Forest Acres.
Now
Forest
we're on
Drive.
Forest Drive. Yep. We made that jump about 10 years ago. I think we jumped over to Forest Drive.
Yeah.
So
You got a nice little shop over there, though.
yeah, it's 10,000 square feet. People still walk in. It amazes me. People still walk in and go, I didn't know you had all this in here. But yeah, we have outdoor furniture, grills, hot tubs, everything you need for your pools and spas, saunas. So yeah, we're a complete outdoor center.
Does the pool industry, what does it model any of the kind of economical upturns and downturns? Like when the real estate industry is booming, are pools booming, or do you see any of those types of flows?
Yeah, especially during COVID. The kind of the old stigma is if you build a pool, you're never going to get your investment back out of it when you sell your house. COVID changed that. Houses with pools, we had people selling their houses just because they had a pool, and they were, where are you going? We don't know, but what people are asking for our house, we can't say no. So it's...
Yeah, COVID definitely put a home office and
Correct.
outdoor living
Correct.
high on the priority list.
Yeah, people had budgets for vacations that they were taking, and they were like, we got this money, we can't take a vacation. let's throw it in the backyard and throw it into a pool. So I'm curious to see how if that's gonna correct itself or not. I kind of feel like we're getting kind of back down to the 2008 where people are, okay, we don't want to buy a new house, but we have this pool. Let's fix the pool that we have back up. You know, I mean, we've got people that haven't even had their pool 10 years yet, and they're coming to us looking to remodel it already just because they want to change it.
They just don't like the look of it?
They just don't like the look of it. They want to change the color of the tile. They want to do something different with it. So,
do you guys have designers on staff, or how does that work?
no, it's just kind of you tell us what you want, and we do it.
So then you guys go out and get a landscape architect to
We can, yeah. I mean, if you want to. I mean, most people we take to existing pools. You know, is this kind of what you want? I tell people, you know, if we build in-ground gunite pools, which are concrete pools. So if you can think of it and you have the budget, we can design it. You know, you can put whatever curves or forms or whatever you want. You know, Mother Nature kind of dictates how, I don't know if it's Mother Nature, but, you know, the groundwater situation dictates how deep we can go. So if somebody wants a 8 to 10 foot pool, we always say that if we hit groundwater, we're not going that far down. So, you know,
then you're going to have a pond.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of whatever people want, we try to accommodate them. So if we need to bring a landscaper in, we will, but most time we're just focused on the pool and the deck and outdoor kitchen, things like that.
What's your favorite grill?
Oh man, my taste has kind of changed the older I get for some reason. And
Because you have more time to grill?
it's probably because I have less time to grill, I think. You know, I was all in on my egg. And
yeah, the egg was a big fad for a while.
And it all depends on what I'm grilling. So I won't grill certain things on the grills. My wife makes fun. She's like, could you add another thing to our backyard? I'm like, absolutely. I will find something else. Christmas time, I got a deep fryer, outdoor deep fryer. So that's been my latest kick is frying wings or whatever. My daughter's like, can we do Oreos? I was like, absolutely not. This is a high-end establishment. We're not doing fair food in my backyard. So,
well, maybe high-end fair food. That's a thing that could go in the dad restaurant.
There you go, dad restaurant. Yeah.
So my neighbor just got a Weber that is, I think it's electric, but it's a smoker and a grill and a flat top all in the same thing.
Okay.
And he smoked a brisket, like for New Year's, he smoked a brisket, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but
what does that look like?
Well, it looks similar to a regular
grill.
Yeah, but it's just this big dome thing. And it's got a control panel on the side, and you get it going. You set the temperature for everything, and there's chips in there that the electric lights the chips, and then the chips smoke. You know, and it's fancy.
Put a little water in there.
Yep. It's super fancy.
Wild.
But
so yeah, I mean, if I'm doing a steak, I'm firing up my egg. If I'm doing a brisket or a butt, it's going on the Traeger. And
I see. So you've got one for all the
So, but my
that helps when you own the store. You have a grill for every
option.
That's right. But my hardcore like egg friends are like, "What are you doing using the Traeger?" I'm like, "Listen, I'm lazy. I don't want to go out there and make sure the temperature's staying where it's supposed to. I just want to set it and."
Well, isn't the Traeger connected to your phone too?
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's a temperature probe called the meter that we sell that I put into the meat, and it's sending me constant updates on, hey, it's going to be done in 2 hours. I'm like, great, I can go do this and come back.
Well, there's a thing going around lately. It said men that get to a certain age, you either have to choose to smoke meats or get into World War II history.
That's true.
And so, so you choose that.
What happens if you do both?
I know. Yeah,
I kind of feel like I am. I love a good World War II documentary.
I know.
So
I know.
Yeah. I do that while I'm smoking meat on the
It's
Traeger.
like all of a sudden interesting. Like it was never interesting, and then all of a sudden,
you're worrying about your lawn.
That's
right. That's right.
Having to aerate and seed it.
Is it because we just want to be out of the house at this point?
That's probably a lot of it. Yeah.
Put our music on and walk around and cut in the backyard. And
so Jack Oliver's has been around for a while. What makes it work? What makes this kind of keep going the way it's going?
I think that we're locally owned. The fact that at any given time you can walk into the store and Jack or myself's going to be there, so people can put a face with a name. We don't try to. When we started, he and I both agreed we weren't going to just sell you something to sell you something. If your pool didn't need it, and that's kind of what we saw our competitors doing, and that was the biggest complaint, is that people were going to these stores and they're like, we're walking out and spending, and back in 2008, this was a lot of money for pool chemicals. We're walking out and spending $300 every other week. And we're like, what are you spending $300 on? There's no reason to spend And you'd start looking at it, it's like, well, they're telling you to add this, to do this, and do this. It's like, no, all you need to do is just add this. That'll take care of all this. So I think people appreciate that we're honest, that we're not, greedy, that, if you need it, we're going to tell you you need it. If you don't need it, then we're not going to try to push it on you. Mm-hmm. So, and we've got a good staff, try to keep everybody knowledgeable. We tried to grow as far as what we do outside, as far as pool maintenance and weekly service. And it's that argument that everybody has. It's tough to find good help. And we just realized we're good where we are. If we add too many people, then you got more drama coming in. And then if you lose somebody, then you've got all these extra pools that you got to figure out how you got to take care of before you can train somebody else. So we just try to keep it simple.
So you're doing more business in what, in installing pools or in maintaining?
It's
because I would figure installing pools is really hard, right? That's it. You got to dig up the yard, and it's a giant
longer
investment
process.
It's at least a 60-day process.
But then also, I would imagine the sales cycle is pretty long too. Like nobody just goes, you know what, let's do a pool, and they go walk in and do it, right? They've been kind of talking to you for a while or looking for a while.
Yep.
Which is more that y'all work with?
Jack kind of handles the construction side of it, so it's all depending on what he has going on as far as what he wants to take on new construction wise. We always have at least 2 pools going at the same time. Because there's a big time gap. Once we dig the hole, put the rebar in, and then shotcrete it, which is basically make the shell of the pool, we have to leave that alone for 30 days. We can't do anything. It has to sit and cure for 30 days.
Man.
So we're either jumping onto the next pool, or we're working on a remodel for somebody.
Right.
So there's always at least 2. Sometimes this time of year, I think we have 3 going on right now at the same time.
We know when Brian told me you were going to come on, it reminded me of my boss at my previous job, only other job I've ever had, I guess. So like job, but he used to say, you never take a down payment on a pool because you can't undig it.
There you go. Yeah.
And he would just say these things in reference to something completely unrelated to pools. But that one always stuck with me for some reason. Like in our business, you would say, you can't do half the work and then expect to get the payment afterwards, right? You can't take a down payment on a pool.
Yep.
What are some challenges that you guys run across? I'm imagining it's a little bit of a luxury item, right? So is it like you're selling Bentleys in Colombia, or what is the kind of challenge with the pool business?
Labor is definitely the biggest challenge. But as far as sales go, we try to educate the buyer when they first reach out to us about a pool. Hey, this is the minimum it's going to cost you to build one of our pools. So that takes out a good chunk of people. You do have the people that they really have no idea. They're reaching out and saying, hey, I've got $10,000. What can I get?
A hot tub.
Yeah, maybe you can get a hot tub. But you're kind of telling them, okay, well, you're going to be an above ground pool owner if that's all you can budget. So,
gotcha.
And we always tell people too, well, we're on the fence about doing a fiberglass or a vinyl pool or a gunite pool. And, it's going back to being honest with them. If this is your forever home, you're not going to move. You don't have plans to move, and you can budget it, then do the gunite pool. Because it's going to be 20 years before you have to make another major investment on it.
Yeah, unless you don't regret your tile choice.
Exactly. Or you just have money to throw away. That, hey, it's we used to have a customer that she would just get tired of how the backyard looked and just
do it again
every 5 years. Do it again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say when my kids were little, we obviously don't have the room for a pool at our house, but my philosophy was, I don't want anywhere else for kids to get hurt. Like my kids are getting, in trouble. If there's a tree, they'll fall out of the tree, right? So the pool just gives them another space to get hurt. But then, you know, some people have good kids. That makes it easier if your kids listen and are safe, you know. But the kids that were around my house were not safe kids. Yeah. And so, you know.
You guys got a hot tub though.
We did, but once, I mean, my daughter was
they're older now.
14 and my son was
Do you guys
18
still have
19.
it and use it?
No. It got one storm last year.
Just
a
took it
limb
out.
fell on it. We got an inflatable hot tub from Costco.
Yeah. Yep.
Which was great for like 3 weeks.
Right.
And then the top went on it, the cover went on it. We're like, oh yeah, we should get in the hot tub again.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then the thing's going all the time. So you go onto the porch, it's like that constant hum, you know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just a tree limb fell on it, and that was it. It died.
We had a hot tub when I grew up. Growing up, we had a hot tub. We had it in the garage.
Oh wow!
Because obviously Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So we didn't have like a big deck you could put it on.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was just like, we didn't park in the garage. We just put the thing in
use
the
it in
garage.
the
In the garage. There you go.
Yeah, it's.
But it was a constant pain in the butt.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, okay, is it working? Do you have to do the chemicals and
Yeah. And boy, if you don't get the chemicals,
what
right,
are the tips for that? Keeping
yeah.
that, like, I know hot tubs are big for you guys. So what is the thing that's going to, you get that mentality that, you know, oh, a pool is a lot of work. A hot tub's a lot of work. What are the things, like, what are the tips that you have for people that are like, it's really not that if you do these three things?
Yeah, we tell people when we build you a pool, if you give it 30 minutes a week, you shouldn't have a problem with it. Because we're setting it up where, you know, the sanitizer, we're giving you the options, you know, whether you want salt water, whether you want chlorine, whether you want Baquasil. We put a cleaner in there for you. So
And a big giant checklist for me to do every week.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, during the summertime, as long as somebody's checking the water chemistry once a week and doing what they need to be doing, it should be okay. When and I tell anybody that comes to work for us too, there's 2 bad times a year for the pool. One is right now, springtime, you know, because of pollen, the wind blows, all that crap's falling out of the trees into the pool.
Yep.
And then summertime's a breeze, and then fall rolls around, and then all the leaves start dropping. And it's never your leaves; it's always the next door neighbor's leaves who are blowing into your pool.
Nothing you can do about it.
Right, but a lot of things are going towards more automation. Where same thing with grilling. You know, you get a notification on your phone. You know, our chemical company that we rep.
That's cool.
Just introduced a cleaner that you put in your pool, and it's supposed to maintain the pH level for you.
And then when the pH level is off, it
Sends
alerts you
a
and says,
notification.
hey.
Hey, you got to change the cartridge in the cleaner. And
Daggone.
hot tubs are the same thing. You know, we sell Hot Springs hot tubs, and it has the emblem on the outside of it. And it's not just for looks. When one of the lights isn't on the emblem, it's telling you, hey, look at me, something's wrong.
Wow.
Something needs to
We had
happen.
a duck.
Dumbify it.
You know the duck? We had a duck.
Oh, that
we
floats?
put it float in the hot tub,
Yeah.
and then that'll tell you the pH level or whatever whatever the chemical levels or whatever, you know. So you could just check the duck and see what's going on with it, you know.
But the manufacturers are trying to make it where it's easier, where it doesn't scare people. That you know, they're putting salt systems on hot tubs where that's supposed to maintain a chlorine level for you. And but you know, I had this conversation with a new customer yesterday. I can't tell you you're going to need this for your pool because your pool is totally different than your next door neighbor's pool. You may be using your pool every day. They may never swim in the pool.
Right.
They may have 10 dogs jumping in the pool. You don't have any dogs jumping in the pool. You know, your pool may be heated. Their pool may not be heated.
And that's going to change the chemistry.
That changes the chemistry. That changes everything about it. So it's tough for the manufacturers to come up with these systems because every situation is different.
Right. So how are you finding people, or how are people finding you?
You
Especially
know,
for a service like putting in a pool.
Yep.
Is it mostly like, I just bought a house, I need to put a pool in, or is it like?
I was actually thinking a great marketing thing would be block parties.
Okay.
Like, come over to Steven's house.
There you go.
And we're going to grill some stuff. We're going to sit on some great patio furniture. We're going to have a pool party.
All of this came from Jack Oliver's
That's
pool
right.
patios.
That's right. And we used to do that for selling grills. Is we'd have demo days where the Traeger rep would come in or the Green Egg team would come in. Green Egg used to have a whole big, like, high-end chef that would come in.
I feel like they kind of
they'd
fell
set
off
up.
the map.
Yeah. We have tried to figure out what is going on with the grilling market. Obviously, when COVID hit, same thing with pools. Market got saturated with grills. and manufacturers went a little bit crazy. You know, Weber in particular. A gas grill is not the same thing as a pellet grill or a smoker grill, and Weber really went in on like electronic stuff, like notifying you when things are done. Well, that's not a gas grill user. A gas grill user is out there flipping meat, and they're done with it. They're not letting things sit on the grill.
No.
Right.
And Weber just kind of just and their price point went up. They were like, "Hey, let's take advantage of this price point." Well, when COVID was over, Weber just started sucking air, and they've totally simplified. I mean, they went from, I don't know the exact numbers, but this huge selection of grills, and they went, okay, we need to make it simple again and go back to just, we need a entry-level grill, a mid-range grill, and a high-end grill. And it's not, 6,000 different models of each. But the egg thing is that this new generation, they're instant gratification. They don't want to sit there and let meat smoke, and they don't know how to grill.
But I would assume Green Egg is targeted squarely on not the new generation.
Correct.
Right? Because aren't they very expensive too, right?
They're
They are, and they don't break. That's
Right.
the other thing. There's very few things to break. So when
Can you
get
cook a piece of pottery in there?
potentially,
Could it be a kiln?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Just market it as a
Is
kiln.
it a double usage?
I mean, when the Green Egg team used to come in, they would make cookies on it, and
yeah,
they would do everything on it. So
Well, I have to say I used my neighbor's Blackstone when he had one.
Right.
I've never had a Blackstone, but I used my neighbor's Blackstone a lot because I would go over. We'd go over and get together at their house, and we'd do brunch or something over there, and I'd be making a full breakfast on there
On
with
the
the
Blackstone,
bacon and the
Yep.
hash browns and eggs and everything right there in the same. And that was just awesome to do. But like I never had one, but I used his. You know. But I don't know. I mean, I was trying to think as a young person, as a 24-year-old first time homeowner, I had a little charcoal grill that I got.
Right.
I think it was $30 or something from Walmart or something, and that's what we grilled on. Because we just didn't have the option for a $1,200, $1,500 grill.
Right.
And so I have a feeling Green Egg is probably going towards that. I think what happened with Green Egg is that the technology stuff, I think Weber probably noticed the technology stuff, getting a little bit more advanced. And, my neighbor who loves smoking started with a smoker and then had a smoker and a Blackstone, and now has got the Weber that does all of it,
Yeah, I mean,
But-
there's obviously all the different ways to cook is appealing, right? So
Right.
not all of us have a whole shop full of grills. So
and I will say, I was never into grilling until I got into this. So,
no.
We always had just a little gas grill, and that was it.
Yeah.
but you cook different foods different ways, and if you're constantly having to, okay, I got my flat top, I got my
Right.
so
like
there's
the
only so much
Blackstone-
space in your backyard.
Yeah.
The Blackstone I don't use during the summertime because
Right.
it gives off way too much heat. And
Yeah.
I don't like sitting there sweating
It is a-
profusely. And
It is a massive hot
Correct.
piece of metal
Yep.
for a long time. Yeah.
Yep.
I won a flat top grill on a raffle at a golf tournament.
Right.
And I set it all up, never used it. It's still sitting there. The cover has disintegrated off of it.
Oh.
And I feel like it's just too much work to, cure the metal. And now I have to revive it. But
Right.
I mean, it was one of those things I was almost intimidated by. And I don't get intimidated by very many things.
Well, especially
It was
not
just-
cooking technology stuff. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
But convenience, it always felt like this is going to be a project rather than I need to grill this meat for the
yeah.
dinner.
But my house, the menu dictates again what I use. So if we're
Right.
doing burgers, the Blackstone's getting fired up, and I'm doing smash burgers.
Okay.
Right.
So there is occasionally where I will sweat profusely in the summertime because everybody in the house.
But it's only
wants
for a short
burgers.
period of time because it takes.
Right.
Yeah. It
Exactly.
takes no time to
Right.
cook it on the Blackstone.
Exactly. Yep. So
Well, and I got an electric flat top from my stove that I just put on my stove top. I plug it into the wall and cook everything on that, and it does a Blackstone style, flat top cooking. So I'll make hibachi on it, or I'll make Greek food or breakfast or whatever on that. And I'd love to have one outside, but I definitely don't think I'm gonna scrape it and cure it and
Right.
take care of it the way
Yeah.
it should be. So I think that might be what is going on with Green Egg is like everybody at some point was like all excited about taking this time to really do it right and heat it to the right temperature and do all those things, and then they realized how much
Right.
how much time it takes to get a steak, which you can get a steak,
Yeah.
but like,
But I think, and a lot of it has to do with how COVID changed society as well.
Yeah.
That was the big thing with Green Egg is, well, my buddy's got one, I got to have one.
yes, right.
And
We're
people
doing
aren't-
nothing
we're-
but grilling out
right
nowadays.
And people they're not as social as they once were, and we're not hanging out at everybody's houses like we
It
once
gives me
were.
something to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you're not seeing Joe's Green Egg next door because you're not going to Joe's house as much anymore. So
Right.
that also changed the direction of it.
Well, talk about selling a luxury service in Colombia. Obviously you're here. I assume you guys are doing business in Colombia primarily because your families are here and all that kind of stuff. Talk about what that's like. What is it like to sell a luxury product in Colombia?
I mean, it's got its challenges like everything else, but you always have some people that just don't know. They don't have boundaries. They don't have a problem texting you Sunday at 2:00 saying, "Hey, by the way, I have a question."
Right.
It's like, and cell phones are the demise of that because it frustrates us because we get that text and you want to ignore it, but you can't ignore it because now you've seen it.
Yeah.
But we try to make ourselves always available. They can text our landline at our store where if they're calling and they can't get through to us, then they can text and one of us will see it, if we're out, and we can take a second and pull over and respond to that text. But there's some people that when you build a pool, they're going to take care of it and they're going to do it themselves. And then there's others that say, okay, now you built it for us. We need to take care of it too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think so. Do you feel like in a larger market, those kind of boundaries are built in where like we want to, because I assume a lot of your business comes from referral.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit about that, but
Right.
But I assume most people come to you not because of advertising or whatever, because with that long sales cycle like you have, that's not a thing where you're going to see a mailer and go, yeah, let's do a pool.
Right.
Like it's not a
Right.
It's not like, yeah, let's go try that Mexican restaurant. It's like,
Yeah.
pool's going to take a long time. And I did not realize you had to let it sit for 30 days after you pour. That's insane. That's a long time of staring at that pool in their backyard
Right.
that you can't use.
That's right. And your backyard being
Or-
torn up and yeah.
Or like my boss said, having second thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? So once you get the hole in there and that tractor's sitting there for 15 days, you're like, well, maybe I don't want a pool. And then all of a sudden you go, I can't undo this.
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
unring.
So I'm curious if the pool. I've never had a pool,
Okay.
but I'm curious. Like they always say, the best 2 days of a boat owner's life is the day they buy it and the day they sell it.
Right.
Is that the similar thing with the pool? Like as soon as the water gets in is the best day, and then as soon as you see the bill for the water, it's the worst day.
I don't think you do it unless that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it all
Shocking.
depends. I mean, my family is probably the worst example of this, but I have 3 daughters, and that's all. We moved to our house that we're in now 6 or 7 years ago, and the last house was not set up for a backyard. Wasn't ideal for a pool. Sloped yard, too many trees. This house was better suited for it. And I kept telling them, I was like, no. I was like, because I take care of pools all day. Last thing I want to do is come home and take care of another pool. No. It's the old thing. We'll take care of it, Dad. We'll take care of it, Dad. Just like, we'll feed the puppy. We'll scoop the litter box for the cat. No. And guess who uses the pool the most? This guy. My youngest was like, I'm really going to use the pool this summer. I was like, okay, sure you are, boomer. Yeah, I mean, that's what you said last year too. But I go home and it's kind of like what we were just saying a little while ago, going outside and getting out of the house. I get home from a long day.
Yeah.
Put on my bathing suit.
It's therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave my phone inside and jump in the pool and just float or just hang out. Open a cold beer and just sit in the pool because nobody can bother. I know they're not coming outside to get in the pool, so.
Is your backyard a version of a man cave for you, or do you have another man cave?
I have a man cave that has turned into a storage room. So yes, my backyard is more of my man
your
cave.
oasis,
I would
yeah.
rather be outside, especially in the fall and the wintertime when it's cold. My wife's ready to get under the covers and read her book.
Yeah.
I'm ready to build a fire in the fire pit and sit
Yeah.
outside, but I'm not going to do it by myself. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
Sometimes I will. Sometimes,
Drag her out there, give her a blanket.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of entice everybody in the fall is, hey, it's a nice night. Let's build a fire. And there's football on. So I'll just put a TV outside and we sit outside by the fire and watch and grill out and cook. But
I have to say that I've never had a pool either, but friends of mine that have had pools, we've always had a great time at their pool.
Thank you, all those neighbors out there
I know.
that invite
All of
friends
those neighbors
over.
and friends who have allowed us to come over and use your. We love it, and we always go. We would spend all our time in the pool if we had a pool.
yeah.
But I'm not sure that's how the reality works. But that's how we've always felt about it. And so we got to looking at houses in 2020, 2021 because I don't know why the market was great, 2.8 interest rates, whatever. Why not buy a house? And in every case, my wife was like, "Is this backyard big enough for a pool? Are we leaving enough budget in here for us to put 40 or 50 grand into putting a pool in the backyard?" And I always thought to myself, we're in a neighborhood right now with a pool, which is kind of a good, that's a good middle ground, right? We can walk up to the pool if we want to go to it, but like we don't have to worry. Again, having a reckless teenage boy, I'm just going to tell you, I was always worried that somebody would fall and break something and then I'm liable. I don't know why I'm thinking that way.
No, listen, my wife despises it, but I keep it up. I have a big sign on my fence. No diving.
Yes. Right.
For that exact reason, because I've got girls that are one's in college, but the other two are teenagers, and they're going to have friends over. And today's litigious society, I know, that possibility is always out there. So
and there's no denying there was that sign up.
That's right. Right.
So
You guys also install the fences.
Yep. So
yeah, that's hilarious. Well, I think it's interesting to because at a time we're not quite in that position anymore, but at a time I was selling a luxury product in Columbia, and it's very interesting that you don't look at Columbia as a place that is good for a luxury product. Like we don't have a Ferrari dealership in Columbia. But there are people, there are pockets of people in Columbia that are, that are in that space. And I think it's really interesting to be in that spot where you're kind of, especially with the long sales cycle and how long it takes to put in. I think it's very interesting.
And we have struggled with some of our distributors on them understanding Columbia.
Right.
Because they look at the population number and say, well, this city is the same size, especially with hot tubs and high-end grill manufacturers. Yeah, we're the same size as, let's say, Omaha.
Okay.
But look at the workforce in Columbia.
Right.
What is our major workforce here? A university.
Right. Military.
Military.
Yeah.
Very blue collar. But so we have a hard time, when the hot tub manufacturer comes and says, well, why aren't you selling this many hot tubs? Because like you said, there's pockets of that in Columbia. It's not.
Columbia is hot as Hades. I mean, that's
Right.
the last thing I want to do in the summer is
how
get
many
into a
people
hot
are
tub.
sitting in their hot tubs in Columbia
In
the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
People
At
come in the
night.
store and it's in the middle of the winter. And I'm like, you enjoying your hot tub? No, it's too cold. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am sitting in my hot tub tonight when it's 30 degrees outside. I think it's
Now,
great,
It's that moment between the back door, because I've had that inflatable hot
Exactly.
tub for 3 weeks. It's the moment between the back door and the hot tub, and then the hot tub back to the back
And
door.
the hot tub manufacturers have done those studies.
Right.
If that hot tub is more than 10 feet away from your back door, you're not using it.
Oh,
Nice.
Because my wife, ours is literally right off our bedroom.
Yeah.
And my wife despises cold. I mean, and she's from Ohio, so I don't know how that
it's
that
because
worked out.
people who grow up in Ohio, Midwest, Upper Midwest, we don't like the cold, and that's why we're here.
Well, that's how my wife's family here.
Moved here because of that.
My
right.
my father-in-law wanted to play golf year round, so that he
Yeah.
chose South Carolina.
Right.
But it is literally 4 steps down, walk into the hot tub. And
Right.
It gets cold. She's not going in the hot tub.
My dad was a genius putting it in the garage.
There you go.
That's right. 'Cause
Yeah.
you just go from inside to
Exactly.
inside.
Exactly.
You're not really outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Open up the garage door, get
Yeah.
that airflow.
Because she's like, I got to take the robe off, and then I'm going to be cold. I'm like, but you're getting in the hot tub. Yeah, but then I'm going to get out of the hot tub and I'm going to be cold again, and then I've got to put the robe back on and go back inside.
Well, some friends of mine when I was in college, his apartment,
feet.
his apartment complex had a hot tub and a pool. And in the summertime, we get in the hot tub for about 5 minutes, get real hot, and then jump into the pool. It was like one of those things that are like, I dare you to get in the hot tub and then jump in the pool, because it's like a shock to the system. Everything feels like frozen water when you get in there, even in the summertime. So, but we got it. I think we got in the summer a couple of times. I don't, but I mean, but wintertime, no way, man. There's no way I'm walking outside at 28 degrees and getting in a hot tub and then getting
like,
wet and then coming back inside. It's
the
insane.
amount of time is 28 degrees in
Well, at nighttime.
Columbia.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
Is slim to none.
Yeah, but when it's 40 degrees and you're sitting in 104 degree water and you get out,
Right.
There's
It's a lot colder.
There's a drastic change there. Yeah.
Or you get pruned, you know, and you don't want to sit there so long you get pruned, especially not in that chemically treated water. You know, it's like, it is a challenge.
99% of the time, I never cut my jets on in my hot tub. I'm
Right.
just soaking in hot water.
Right.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's more relaxing that way. Now, if my wife does take the chance and get in with me, we got to turn the jets on.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that's probably because she doesn't want to talk to me. But yeah.
It does get a little loud, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't factor in the loudness of
Yeah.
it. Like, you know, you get two people in there that want to talk, you can't talk with the jets on. You
Right.
know? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely an industry that I haven't really thought much about. Obviously because I've never had a pool, but like at the same time, you know, you guys are probably thriving where you are and constantly talking to people about pools and stuff, but I had never really thought about it. So it's really cool to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I want to shift gears a little bit, because when I mentioned at the top, you are a Forest Acres councilman, correct?
Correct.
And for a year and a half?
2 years.
2 years now?
Yep. Finishing up my second year.
How's that going? Are you enjoying it?
I love it. I really do. People ask me, you know, is it time consuming? It's as much time as you want to give it. So some days it's very consuming, some days it's not. But
What was the motivating factor for you to say, like, yeah, I want to run for this and do this?
just the change that I saw coming to Forest Acres. You know, there's something that people like about Forest Acres. I tell people it's the Forest Acres feel. I don't know how to make it tangible and put up what is that Forest Acres feel, but if you live there, you know what it is. Mm-hmm. And especially with the development happening at the old Richland Mall site, I just wanted to make sure our city didn't lose that feel. I want my daughters to want to come back to Forest Acres and live there whenever they get done with their college and start their lives. And yeah.
Forest Acres is an interesting part of Columbia because it's a city apart, right?
Yep.
It's got
10,000 people.
It's got its own municipality, its own police force, but yet it's still Columbia addresses.
Which we're fighting to change.
Oh, really?
Yep. We're working with Congressman Wilson's office to make that happen, where if you live in 04 or 29204, 29206, that the Postal Service will recognize Forest Acres or Columbia. So
Would there ever be a merger of those 2920s? Like, is that the postal thing, or
it's a postal thing. Like, technically, the way I understand it now is if you were to write Forest Acres, South Carolina, and put 29204, the Postal Service should not deliver that piece of mail.
really?
Yep.
Because it's
They
not-
should not
it's a
recognize
mismatch.
it. Yep. It's not the city that's assigned to that zip code. So
Well, it's funny because I live in Irmo, and Forest Acres might as well be another state because I just don't get that far away from Irmo.
Yep.
I think what happens when you live in Irmo, it's like you're just encapsulated in your
Same
spot.
thing with Forest
you know?
Acres.
Yeah, I never
My
go to
wife and I
Irmo.
hate leaving Forest Acres.
Yeah.
I mean, we have restaurants, we have groceries. I go to Harbison or I go to the northeast side of town. Even when I'm at work, when I'm working, driving around, going to look at pools and everything, I'm like, I don't like being over here. I need to go back home. Like right now, the traffic. I mean, people in Forest Acres complain about the traffic, and I kind of say, you want to complain about traffic? Go out to Harbison. Go out to Two Notch Road. Go out to Sandals.
What happens when you live in Irmo is you just avoid Harbison.
Right.
You don't go over there.
Right.
Yeah, you can't
yeah.
avoid Forest Drive.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Or Rosewood. Like
Really the only way you do it is I'm just not getting on Forest Drive at 5 o'clock.
Right.
There's times, right?
Yeah.
Lunchtime, early in the morning, quitting time.
Yeah.
Just don't get on Forest Drive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple.
And Trader Joe's is awesome, but
Yeah. I mean, there's people that drive from out of state to come to that Trader Joe's.
I know, it's nuts.
And Lexington's trying to get in on our Trader Joe's now, get their own Trader Joe's. It's like, wait a minute. No, you're not taking our people away.
I think
'Cause there's-
Lexington is trying to get kind of a Forest Acres vibe, right? They're trying to have that little
I feel like that is probably pretty
neighborhoody type
accurate.
type feel,
Yep.
to it.
So
Yeah.
what is going into the area where the Richland Fashion Mall was? Because I've seen a lot of different things. I know they came out with this kind of like rendering of everything, and there was like another grocery store, and everyone's going, why do we need another grocery store? So, and then I saw something else that it wasn't necessarily that. So can you tell us what is taking place there? What is going to be there?
So, from my understanding, the developer has signed an agreement with an existing grocery store in Forest Acres. I'll say that. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
allowed to say the name yet or not. And that grocery store is going to move there.
Okay.
They have an existing model of what they're going to do there off of Killian Road, so that'll give you another hint. And they want to put that model as the centerpiece of that development site.
So live workspace as well, like
Yes,
like apartments.
There's
and things?
definitely going to be apartments there. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2. The phase 2 is going to be the kind of the, if you're staring at it from the intersection of Forest and Beltline, the left-hand side, kind of down where Ace Hardware and Casa Linda and Slim Chickens is. That's the phase 2 area. That'll be what is it? All South Credit Union, I think,
Yeah.
is over there. That'll be the last part that they develop. But the apartments are going to be, there's one section of the parking garage that still has to come down. They ran into engineering difficulty with before they started taking it down. But most of the parking garage is still there staying, but it's going to be encapsulated with apartments. So that whole
So you won't actually
look
see,
is
you'll
gonna
see
change.
something different. You're not going to
Yeah,
look and
I think
see
on the
a
back
parking
side when
garage.
you're at the intersection, you'll
Yeah.
still see some of it, but the outside of it is going to change drastically.
And then you're saying apartments are basically going on top of the parking garage?
On the outside of it, not on top of it, but wrapping around it.
Oh,
Yep.
interesting.
And the city has bought the back side of the property where it was parking that
Yeah.
sloped up. We've bought all that, and we're investing in a very nice park.
Is there going to be an amphitheater or?
We're working on that. I don't think the elevation is going to allow us to do a amphitheater, but at least a stage, because we recognized very quickly with the Gills Creek Memorial Park that just opened up last year, our residents want to be outside. Maybe not during the dead of summer, but when the weather is nice, they want to.
Put a splash pad in.
Yeah, I mean,
The Gills Creek Memorial Park has that, so that's
Yeah.
where everybody takes their kids in the summertime. But we recognize that's where people want to be. But we've been working very closely with the developer. Obviously, we're not involved with who they bring in, but we've made it known we want a brewery or a tap room as a part of the development that hopefully will overlook the park. So we can tie that in together
Nice.
where if you're sitting at the tap room or the brewery, there's outside entertainment for you to enjoy as well.
Yeah.
So we're kind of using that as a carrot, our park, to attract somebody in. Our city administrator has taken, field trips, I guess you would call it, to breweries in the southeast with the developer and with some council members, talking to people, seeing what they need to, seeing what's required, because it's all going to be, everybody's in it obviously to make money except for the city. So they've got to figure out what's going to work for them. If in South Carolina, if you want to get into a podcast about laws, get into the alcohol sales laws.
Oh yeah.
You can spend hours on that. I mean, we've just kind of scraped the surface of it, and my head's spinning trying to understand that. Is okay, you can sell alcohol if you can sell food, but you
It's
got to
be
make
a certain percentage.
right. You got to make this many kegs and this many barrels or whatever. So, and I've got a buddy that owns a brewery in the upstate, and I've spent hours talking to him about it, and I still can't grasp it. So trying to navigate that as well has been interesting.
Yeah, my daughter asked me about if I had ever heard of blue laws the other day. She's like, we talked about this thing in school called blue laws. Have you ever heard of that? And I was like, yeah, used to be a real
big
thing.
Nothing used to be open on Sundays in Columbia.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's great. You couldn't buy alcohol in the grocery store on Sunday.
Yep.
And I was explaining it like I was talking to her about a wagon train. It was like this was ancient history, but it wasn't that long ago. But so I guess we've gotten progressive, if you look at it from that perspective, from the idea of like mini bottles and all that stuff to where we are now, it's gotten progressive. But man, it is a deep well once you start to get into selling it, but also selling it in relation to the liquor liability insurance and all the stuff that you've got to do to be able to sell alcohol. It's wild.
Crazy. Yep.
But a brewery next to a park sounds very similar to what real cities do.
Right.
I hate to say it that way, but
we're council has a tough job because we want to keep it a family-friendly environment.
Of course.
So, we just recently updated our ordinance on business hours, because we don't want a nightclub rolling into the new development. I mean, that's not the Forest Acres field that I was talking about,
Right.
but we don't want to scare somebody away. I kind of fought for, making sure that if that grocery store that's coming has the option to stay open 24 hours. And, us saying, no, you can't do that, that's going to scare somebody away. But also, you got to be aware of your constituents and make sure they're not driving all over Columbia if they have an emergency. If you run out of diapers in the middle of the night, you don't want to drive all the way down Garner's Ferry to the Walmart that's open 24 hours. You want to go right down the street. And you're not thinking about running into Circle K, which is our only 24-hour business right now, to buy an antihistamine for your kid who's broken out in a rash all of a sudden. They may have it, but that thought process isn't running through your head. So, but it's like I told the rest of council, the market's going to dictate what's going to stay open 24 hours. The grocery store's like, no, we don't see the need for that. We don't. There's a security risk and all that involved, and finding employees to work all night and stock shelves. So,
do you see Forest Acres Council as a kind of stepping stone to something else in politics, or is this as far as you're going to go?
I had somebody ask me. That's funny. I had somebody ask me that 3 weeks ago. I don't think so. I don't think so. I have a passion for Forest Acres, and I love South Carolina. But my passion is not for the state; it's for the city that I live in.
Right.
And in the 2 years that I've been on council and seeing how the bigger game is played, that does not appeal to me. There's too much
Politics.
Yeah, there's too much.
You just want to actually do some good.
Right. There's people out there that they just have an agenda, and it's like they're not. I'm not trying to blow my horn here, but I feel like I'm doing it for the right reason, and there's people out there that obviously aren't doing it for the right reason. I'm not doing it to make my street better in Forest Acres. I know that the affordable housing area of Forest Acres has to be just as successful as the high-end housing.
Sure.
Part of Forest Acres has to be successful for our city to maintain and be a thriving city and be a place that people want to come to.
Have the right balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about, one thing I don't see in Forest Acres is a fire department.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there plans to get one of those, or we're just going to continue to?
We'll just continue to use Richland.
Yeah,
Richland County, City of Columbia. Is that City of Columbia Fire? Yeah. The partnership they have. Yeah. So, Forest Acres doesn't have water, which is a shame because back in the 40s, I think it was the 40s, we used to have our own water department, and our growth we can't grow anymore. Forest Acres cannot grow anymore because we don't have that. City of Columbia can use their water to annex in and grab parcels. Right. We can't do that because we don't have water. We have Public Works, we have a police department, and city administration.
And a building department.
Right, which is under administration. Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes, especially with this new park coming on board. I think we're probably going to have to hire some more people. Our city administration is less than 10 people, including our building department. Yeah. So our biggest budget is our police department.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but you kind of it's.
Have you ever gotten called in for Forest Acres jury duty?
I have not yet. Not yet. I get calls about it when people do, though. Do I really have to do this? Yep. Yeah. I mean, it happens like once in a blue moon. I think somebody requested.
I think I was called one time and then it was canceled. It was like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So courts every Thursday. So people sometimes get those notices. But yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten it once in Irmo, but it's been a long time.
I've gotten Richland County twice in the past 5 years.
Wow.
So how does that? What have you learned in the dynamics of City of Columbia, City of Forest Acres, and Richland County? How does that all kind of work together, and where are some of the bottlenecks that you see happening?
I feel like sometimes, and I've gotten to know council members on City of Columbia and Richland County, but I kind of feel like sometimes we're looked upon as the little brother of the group. And I kind of said that when I was running for office, is that we as a city need to swing a bigger stick. You know, Richland County, the first penny tax is wrapping up, and we essentially got nothing out of that penny tax.
Wow.
We got a sidewalk on Harrison. Well, if you go and look at the map on Harrison Road, City of Forest Acres is a 1/10 of a mile on Forest Acres. So we literally got a 1/10 of a mile of a sidewalk on Harrison Road.
I don't even know which one Harrison Road is.
It's right next to my store. That's the only reason I know it's there. And it doesn't even go. The sidewalk ends at Harrison and Bagnell. It doesn't even connect to Forest Drive. And then we got a little bit of sidewalk on Percival Road because Forest Acres grabs a little bit of Percival Road. So that's kind of what the mayor and I've had discussions about it, is this new penny tax. Councilman Weaver has been great to Forest Acres. He's our Richland County rep, Councilman Weaver, and Councilwoman Little, who just started as well. They're our reps. But Councilman Weaver fought vigorously. I think he kind of recognized that, is that some places didn't get. I think a lot of the outskirts of Richland County got a lot of that penny tax, where the places where the population is did not get that grasp. Did Percival Road need a sidewalk? 1,000% that needed a sidewalk, because there's a lot of people living in those apartments that walk up and down Percival to get to Walmart. And if you go and look before they've started construction now, but there was a well-worn path and it wasn't safe. So I am all for things like that. But there's places in Forest Acres that need sidewalks too. There's Richland County roads in Forest Acres that need to be repaved. And I had a conversation with Councilman Weaver, and the mayor and I talked about this. We just had our city staff get us the list of the roads in Forest Acres that are Richland County's responsibility. And we're going to present those to Councilman Weaver and say, hey, let's go out and look at these 20, 30 roads and see what needs attention. Or, hey, why isn't there a sidewalk on Bethel Church? That's a pretty high traffic area, but there's a lot of families on that could use that pathway to walk to Satchel Ford, or walk to Trenton Park, or so it's a fine line that you have to walk, because you don't want to upset your counterparts on the other things, but you got to fight for your constituents as well. We all rely on City of Columbia water, and you don't want to call out City of Columbia water, but and it's not this council's fault. It's not this City of Columbia council's fault that the water system is the way it is. It's previous councils that mismanage those funds to not keep our water system up to date. So when there's a major water main bust on Trenton Road that knocks out half of Forest Acres water, you can't call and scream at Mayor Rickman about that and say, what in the world? I mean, he knows there's problems, and they're working to update it as fast as they can, but it was neglected for so long that, it's there's a lot of education involved, I guess. You're trying to tell the public, hey, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. Why is North Trenton Road a mess right now? Because City of Columbia is finally doing what they should be doing, and they're upgrading our water system. So yeah, it's going to be a headache for 12 months, but when they're done, hopefully we won't have any water main breaks. And when they're done, thankfully, and I'm very thankful that there was some communication here, SCDOT had it on their books. North Trenton was supposed to be repaved this summer from Decker to Forest.
Wow.
And thankfully, City of Columbia somehow, and Councilman Brennan on City of Columbia was involved. I don't know who communicated with somebody, but somebody communicated and said, hey, we're getting ready to tear up North Trenton to redo this water line. Y'all need to hold off. thank God they did, because we would have had a beautifully paved North Trenton.
And then they
It had to be turned up
But had to be
tear it
torn
again.
up again and patched back up. So,
Government.
yes. I mean, there's a lot, you know. I mean, East Richland County Sewer District, we run into them as well.
Oh,
because
yeah,
they handle the
that's another
sewer.
thing.
I mean, with the new
Where did
Gills
these
Creek,
come in?
Yeah, the Gills Creek Memorial Park. We were literally getting ready to pave the parking lot to wrap that project up. And our paving crew is sitting there unloading their equipment, and the East Richland County shows up and says, "What are y'all doing?" They're like, "We're getting ready to repave." They're like, "Oh, we got to dig up this sewer line right here." So again, you try to keep those lines of communications open with the other councils so that everybody's talking to each other, so we all kind of are aware of what's going on. So Richland County has been huge in the mall development site, you know, helping us acquire legislative money or chipping in to make sure that, you know, we're giving the tax breaks to the developer or helping us with funds to build the park.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, awesome.
Nice
Well,
to get some insight on all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's going on.
especially when you live in Forest Acres.
I know.
Yeah.
It's important to know.
I feel very
Yeah.
oblivious sometimes.
That's
I'm like,
right.
yeah, they're working on the road. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of we're the only way Forest Acres can grow now is close those donut holes that you always hear about. So
Yeah,
I'm
because
sure.
I mean, I live off of Dallas.
Yep.
So on the left side of Dallas is not Forest Acres. On the right side is Forest
And
Acres.
see, when I first moved to Forest Acres, I was on Dallas,
right.
but I was in City of Columbia.
Yeah.
I was there was 8 houses on the end of Dallas that were City of Columbia. That,
They have a
you know,
different. They have a different garbage day.
different garbage, different
Wow.
police,
Yeah.
different. I mean, yeah.
We
Yep.
have that in Irmo with Lexington County. So we're part of Irmo is Richland County, part is Lexington County, and you know you never know exactly where it mixes up. So,
Yeah.
well, Stephen, thanks for coming on, man. This
Yeah,
was
I
great.
appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
So we end up our episode with 5 questions.
Okay.
All right, asking your favorites on things. So Brian, I'll let you lead off since this is your
So
guest.
5 favorites. What is your favorite meat to grill, or smoke, or
That's a great one. Good job.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with a ribeye.
a ribeye?
A nice
Oh,
ribeye.
nice.
Yep. Like to get the egg nice and hot and sear it. Yep.
Okay, so ribeye with the egg.
Yeah, with
Yep,
the egg.
With the
okay,
egg.
all right.
Okay.
That's
Take the
something
time.
I won't do,
Do
on
it
the gas
right.
grill or the
Yeah.
Traeger or the Blackstone is a steak. That's always on the egg.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
Noted.
Yep.
Yeah. This is backyard goals.
There you
to
go.
have
That's right.
There you go.
the modicum of grills that you can choose from.
What is your favorite TV show?
Oh wow. Does it have to be a current TV
Anything.
show?
Nope.
Anything? Wow. Probably. I'm gonna say Dirty Jobs.
Dirty
Whoa.
Jobs.
Yeah, Dirty
Wow.
Jobs. on my
Yeah,
list.
that's a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
one. What is your favorite song?
Dinosaur by Hank Williams Jr.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You came right to that one too.
Yeah.
It's like
These are
there were some
excellent.
hemming and hawing for most of the time, you know, but like that was right there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'm familiar with Dinosaur
Well,
by
you have
Hank
to go and
Williams
listen
Jr.
to it. It's
All
very
right.
old school. So,
All right.
yeah,
I like
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
I like it. Favorite movie?
Smokey and the Bandit.
Nice.
Yeah.
I talked about the Firebird the other day.
Yeah.
My original goal in collecting cars was to collect all the movie and TV show cars that I loved when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So the Firebird is one of them.
I had a conversation with a buddy the other day. It's like, when do you introduce your kid to some of those movies? And
Yeah.
he's like, I introduced my family to Blazing Saddles way too early.
Way
I'm like,
too
yeah, I was
early.
like, yeah, you
Boy,
gotta be
that's
careful of that one. But
that's a first year of college movie.
right,
I think.
right,
Yeah.
And then you start watching it, and you're like, I didn't realize the innuendo was in there like that. you
Well,
know?
I just rewatched Smokey and the Bandit last year, I think.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it, and I recognized 2 things. The plot of Smokey and the Bandit is that they need to get a truck full of Coors from the West Coast to the East Coast,
Yep, across the Mississippi.
across the Mississippi,
Yep.
and it's not allowed.
Right, it was bootlegging.
Bootlegging because Coors wasn't allowed on the East Coast. That's the whole plot.
Yep.
So he hired the bandit to escort this truck of Coors beer from the West Coast to the East Coast. That's the whole plot.
That's right.
So I was like, really? Like
Yeah.
that's the plot.
Yep.
The second thing is that almost all of the footage of the Firebird is sped up. And you could, once you understand what sped up footage looks like, you could really tell that it's not really going that fast.
Right.
Like nobody's really driving that fast. It's just that they've sped it up in post to look like it's faster.
Right.
Didn't recognize that as a kid, obviously. When I'm
Yeah.
watching it in 1979, I'm like, well, I don't recognize that that's happening. But now I'm seeing it and I'm going, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, and I think probably Cannonball Run and all of those movies that I loved from the
Yeah.
late 70s, early 80s are all probably exactly the same. They're all probably sped up with these, kind of, but there is no denying the power of the Bandit and, and kind of that era of movie star.
That's right.
We just don't have anymore.
No.
And so that's awesome. That's a great choice.
Yeah.
Cool. Last one.
I'm glad you got so excited.
I know. It's like, but I got to see that car, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
They have one of them. I don't know which movie it's from, but it's at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville.
Nice.
And I got to see the actual car, which that was a kind of coming home moment for me to be able to see that car.
There's an account on X that he constantly posts pictures of of the car. All like people. I mean, there's guys that still paint their 18-wheelers to look like the snowman.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That drive around. So
Yeah.
and it was fascinating, to watch Burt Reynolds in the last years of his life. He really started to embrace that role again, because I think that's how he finally recognized that's how people knew him. was as a
But honestly,
bandit.
the magnetism of Burt Reynolds at that time,
Oh, yeah.
like
It was
1979, a genuine, honest mustache, not ironic, not a throwback. Like this is the real,
Right.
this is what he wanted to do with his life.
Yep.
The cowboy hat that felt natural, all that stuff. I mean, you don't get movies like that anymore.
No.
So
No.
good stuff.
Last one, favorite book.
Wow, that one's tough. Favorite book. Man, there's not one that I really go to. I will say, I guess the first book that I really embraced that, we all grew up and you're like, I'll just watch the movie. And I read the book and I watched the movie and I was like, man, books are really good, was The Client by John Grisham.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In almost all cases, the John Grisham book is better than the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I watched the movie, I was like, man, they left so much out that was terrible.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of a growing up moment for me to read that book. So I always kind of go back to that.
Yeah,
that
that's
book
awesome.
always fascinated me. Yeah. Yep.
I just recently read what was the first movie that Matthew McConaughey was in? It was a John Grisham book that was made into a movie, and I read the book.
The lawyer.
Yeah, he's obviously a
Yeah, I
lawyer
know
in the
I
South.
I could see it.
You
Yeah.
know, but I listened to the book on Audible, and the guy reading the book was doing all of these characters from Mississippi in this book, and you could hear the difference between the judge and the prosecutor and the defendant and the defense lawyer, and he was reading, and the female, and all. He was just reading all of these parts, and you could see it in your head that that's a different person, but all in these Mississippi accents that are all a little different. And then the lawyer is from Boston, so he throws in a Boston accent in there.
Wow.
And I was like, this is art.
Right.
Like this guy reading this book is doing an amazing performance of this. And I went back and watched the movie, and I was like, God, this is a terrible thing to do, to read the book first and then watch the movie.
Was it Mississippi Burning?
No, it wasn't Mississippi Burning. That's not John Grisham. It was A Time to Kill.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but it, they gloss over so much in the movie. Like you go, well, that's not exactly how that worked, but it was just, but it's the same John Grisham plot. It's like something happens in the South, big city lawyer comes from Boston to do it. It's like,
Hey, my cousin Vinny is the best.
oh my God, that's an infinitely rewatchable
Two
movie.
Utes.
Yeah. The
two
two Utes.
What? Yeah.
He comes in that tuxedo,
Are you mocking me with
Look
that
at me,
outfit?
son. Yeah.
and you can tell the judge is not Southern.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's all of these things that you just go, well, whatever. I'm going to look over that because Joe Pesci at that time is just great. So, well, Stephen, thank you so much for being on, man. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And that'll be it for the As Told by You podcast today. Check us out next time. Make sure to like and subscribe.